Hello everyone, I'm back from my latest hiatus, and I'm returning to a couple of directors who are among the best filmmakers that I've yet come across. I've been watching the Coen brothers movies for more than a decade now, and while they sometimes slip up, their track record is very positive. Today I want to talk about their most recent directorial film, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Now, this isn't the first time that the Coens have dipped into the Western genre, but it is their first anthology film. This means we get 6 short stories bound together in a single 2-hour film. In a special touch of meta, the film is bookended by a literal book about the Old West with the same title as the film. As a result, the film feels a bit like those pulpy Old West novels that were written by the bucketful during that time period. But they also pay homage to pretty much every single cliche of the Western film genre. We get the singing cowboys, we get the old prospectors looking for gold, we get the card games, we get the bank robbery, the wagon train heading west, the raids by First Nation warriors, all of it. But even at the film's silliest, and it does get silly, there's always an underlying theme which is dark, unsettling, and even a bit misanthropic at times. Now, none of the stories are tied to each other by characters or plot. I mean, heck, one of the stories breaks the fourth wall on a regular basis when the others don't. But what the stories do share are traits and themes. The film begins and ends with stories about singing protagonists, though the context is wildly different, and there's a few plot twists which repeat themselves throughout the course of the film. Above all, these short stories all tackle the subjects of death and mortality, which some of you will know are 2 of the Coen brothers' favorite subject matters. Now, without giving any spoilers away, I'll touch on what each story is about. The Ballad of Buster Scruggs follows the titular character, played by Tim Blake Nelson, as he travels across the Old West, cheerfully taking on anyone who tries to mess with him. Near Algodones follows an outlaw, played by James Franco, who has some of the worst luck ever, even when it seems like he's getting a break. Meal Ticket follows the journey of a showman, played by Liam Neeson, and his only attraction, an armless and legless thespian who recites entire speeches for entertainment. All Gold Canyon is about the old prospector that I mentioned earlier. Zoe Kazan stars in The Gal Who Got Rattled as a young woman traveling west, facing obstacles along the way. Finally, The Mortal Remains is about a group of travelers sharing a coach together. Each of these stories is well done. The acting, the writing, the cinematography, the music, it all comes together to tell compelling stories, even with the short time spans they're given. Of course, which ones you like and which ones you don't like will depend on your own sensibilities. But if I had to rank them, I would say from my least to most favorite, the order is 2, 5, 1, 3, 4, and 6. Speaking of that 6th story, I would honestly go so far as to say The Mortal Remains is one of the best short films that I've ever seen. Everything about this story works perfectly. The atmosphere starts out lighthearted and comedic, but as we learn more about the lives and worldviews of each of these diverse people, and as they start to clash with each other, a new feeling emerges. The conversation shifts from comedy to drama, and then finally to horror. Everyone in this scene is brilliant, but my favorite of them is Jonjo O'Neill, who plays an eccentric Englishman traveling with 2 companions on the journey, one living and one dead. And since we're talking about great performances, I also want to give a shout out to Harry Melling and Tom Waits. You might know Melling for his role as Dudley Dursley in the Harry Potter films, but I guarantee none of you will recognize him in this film. Not just because he's older, but also because he completely disappears into his role as a talented artist who lives a very vulnerable existence due to his disability. Meanwhile, Tom Waits carries an entire short story on his shoulders, getting us invested in this simple story of a man seeking out a pocket of gold ore lying somewhere in the gorgeous countryside. I know he's mostly well known as a musician, but it's always struck me how good of a character actor Tom Waits is. Now, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs is not my favorite Coen Brothers film, but it does rank very high, with some of their best moments. I would easily recommend this for a watch, or even a rewatch. I've seen this film a dozen times now, and I like it more and more each time.